On today's episode, we talk about congressional redistricting in our home state of North Carolina, tracking nicely with its long-held impassioned love affair with rigging elections, as well as the state of our local public transportation system,
and the stories nobody's talking about, COVID and the extinction of the flu, as well as the statewide executive order the media hardly even covered.
Our guests this week are Kimi, Roberson, and Levi, Gardner of our regional CBD grower and dispensary, Kingdom Harvest.
Yes, very excited with loads of questions about their successful business, the life and times of peddling plants, and the future of decriminalization and legalization of marijuana here in North Carolina.
Definitely more to unpack there than we have time for, but we'll do our best.
And I promise that I will stick to the outline.
Yes, please do. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. Let's light it up.
Is that good? So, there's a lot of speculative information circulating as we curve the last lap of the flu season and make our way towards spring. Like, where's the flu? And why are we seeing such a dramatic reduction in reported cases, not just in the United States, but all over the world? Well, last September, Nature Reviews Microbiology, which is a peer-reviewed journal by Nature Publishing Group, released a study that illuminated some pretty fascinating information. The abstract of the piece states that the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic has seen a notable global reduction in influenza cases of both influenza A and B viruses. In particular, the B Yamagata lineage has not been isolated from April 2020 to August 2021. And that's suggesting that this influenza lineage may have actually become extinct, which may provide opportunities for improving availability and effectiveness of influenza vaccines. Like worldwide, B Yamagata is virtually not even detectable now. And while it isn't nearly an extinction level situation for all the other types of influenza, we're seeing really dramatic decline in detection across the board. In fact, according to the same publication, there wasn't any detected cases worldwide in 2021 with the same virus in isolation or sequencing. So this is obviously fascinating, and I think it's something to look back on later this year whenever we're headed into flu season. You know, like, is it going to come back or is it gone forever?
Right.
And who would have thought that an inadvertent positive outcome of being generally healthier during a pandemic would mean that diseases tend to die or go away altogether?
Redistricting has become a huge issue in North Carolina politics over the past several years, but some history from the North Carolina Black Alliance tells us that as far back as 1868, districts were drawn by governing parties in a way that was openly racist. An example is the 2nd Congressional District, known then as, quote, the Black Second.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So yesterday, the Supreme Court denied Republicans in their plea to block the state's court-ordered congressional districting plans. And in their order, which they wrote on Monday, March 7th, the justices are pushing through their original decision to use the district maps that are going to be selected by the North Carolina Supreme Court. And those will be used in the upcoming 2022 elections and will most likely give Democrats an additional House seat. So it's a big deal. And the decision that the judges wrote was 357 pages long, and it was full of condemnation and included language that indicated partisan intent and, quote, surgical precision had been used to draw the maps, and that it had gotten to the Supreme Court because it violated state constitutional protections of free elections.
Oh, so gerrymandering in North Carolina is just as much a culture as growing apples or hiking or basketball.
Unfortunately, that does seem to be the case.
So let's talk executive orders, but not presidential, more local than that, like our home state of North Carolina local. There was an executive order signed by our governor, Roy Cooper, that I am genuinely surprised flew under the radar. On January 7th of this year, 2022, Cooper signed Executive Order number 246, affirming North Carolina's commitment to a clean energy economy and directing next steps in the state's plan to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions and create economic opportunities for North Carolinians across the state, especially in underserved communities. Governor Cooper said, quote, "Transforming North Carolina toward a clean energy and more equitable economy will provide good jobs and a healthy environment for generations of families across our state." So what does this mean where we are? Well, I'll be honest with folks listening at home, climate change is obviously sort of a big deal. It's no secret that climate is this sort of ambiguous and overly politicized issue where we are. Like, along with so much else, the very real and existential threat of climate change has been minimized into weaponized language by party politicians and special interests. And unfortunately for a lot of people in our region, when they hear climate change, they only think rising sea levels or bigger hurricanes and things more nebulous or worldly, but not so much locally. But we do know that it will affect us here. And we're going to see that in flooding. We're going to see that in infrastructure, in economic mobility, and access to healthcare. We've seen it materialize as recently as Crusoe with devastating flooding last year. It's going to be pervasive, and it's going to be a big deal. So when we talk about climate change on this podcast, I think it's important for us to clarify early on that we do have something of an understanding, and it's in flux and in tandem with the ongoing available information and research of the very nuanced and pervasive ways that it's going to directly affect our community here. From the apple orchards to the wetland ecosystems to the effects on our water and transportation infrastructure and beyond. So that being said, as human beings that experience love and empathy, I believe it's our responsibility to fight for a survivable future for generations beyond us and platform leaders that make climate action their priority. And personally, I believe that with this executive order, we do see that level of priority and leadership in Governor Cooper.
And I think that's an important first step.
Right. First step is key. So there's action and there's also performative politics and inaction, right? So just signing the paper and saying the things isn't good enough. We need receipts. And as we record this, the order is 2 months and 1 day old. So we'll have to see exactly what this means for us here in Western North Carolina. But I think extending an invitation to folks to reach out to Governor Cooper's office for comment is a great starting point.
This sounds like a great line of communication for folks interested in how exactly we can meet this moment of necessary climate action. And while Roy Cooper is far from perfect, this is a step in the right direction. So, with all that said, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get to our first guests ever!
Woohoo!
This episode is brought to you by Oklawaha Brewing Company. Oklawaha Brewing is a nano brewery and taproom committed to brewing high-quality beer in a vibrant atmosphere and is conveniently located in downtown Hendersonville. Drop in sometime and check it out.
We want to introduce our very special, very first ever guests on the Fire on the Mountain pod, Kimi, Roberson, and Levi Gardner of Kingdom Harvest. Kimi and Levi, welcome to Fire on the Mountain.
So there's a lot of potential for a bottomless conversation today, but we're going to do our best to get through as much as we can. And that being said, let's get some introduction for the folks at home. Tell us who you are and what you do.
So I'm Levi. I own Kingdom Harvest, Hendersonville. I own the first store, so this was the distribution store. Everything was here. So I mean,
this was the original location?
Yeah, the very first one.
And did you open it?
No, it was already functioning when I decided to get with the company. So basically, I saved, but I suck at that. So one of my best friends, my mentor, actually helped me invest and get me started, and just been going ever since.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. It's doing pretty well.
Thank you. I'm so glad I got to quit my job.
That's the dream.
That's the dream. For real.
My name is Kimi Roberson, and I've been working with the company for about 5 years. I started out as a grower, and I've worked my way up. I now own the Kingdom Harvest out in Brevard, and it's a wellness and wine cafe. So you have like all of our Kingdom Harvest products, and you have coffee and some wine and some beer and some snacks. We've been approved with the Blue Zones project. Blue Zones is trying to get Brevard to become a Blue Zones approved area where they are having people live healthy, happy lives up to 100 plus. So that's really beautiful. But yeah, just I love Kingdom Harvest. They have been super amazing to me. From the start, I've loved just being a part of every step, and love having Levi being the owner of the Hendersonville location, because we babied this location for the first few years, and very happy to have someone who's very knowledgeable and who's very passionate about the cannabis industry and the product, and making it work.
Trying to sell millions, right?
Trying to sell millions.
Sell millions every day.
For everybody listening, whenever she said very knowledgeable, he threw his arms up and did a did a flex.
Yeah. And it's the same for me. The company's been great to me as well. This is a crazy opportunity that I've pretty much wanted for like 10 or 11 years. And to be able to just get in and really just start learning more than even I thought that I knew, because I thought it was,
Right.
Yeah, I
thought I knew a whole lot. Yeah.
I've grown, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know what's going on, but like the prohibition of it really has sparked a lot of like innovation and ingenuity just on human part. So to me, I'm kind of thankful for that, because like, wow, think about all the stuff we would have never known it could do if everybody was just smoking it. Mm-hmm. If they were like, yeah, you can have it, there would have been no need for like further research. Like, oh, what is it actually doing in people? We don't care. It just grows outside. Let's just roll it up and smoke it, So that's actually I think it's been a really good thing, but it does definitely put a tax on society as a whole, obviously. Like if you pop open a High Times magazine, it's not just about weed anymore. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's about all these different things that's going on within the industry, all these creative minds that have come together just to get like a taste or a certain look or like a certain high. It's like, wow.
Yeah. So Kingdom Harvest comes from the name of the land where we grow our hemp, Kingdom of the Happy Lands, and it's one of the two kingdoms that in North America, so at least in the United States, that was ruled by a king and a queen, and it's just really beautiful. It was after slavery, and there was a bunch of people who were freed slaves, and they just had nowhere to go, nowhere to really have a start, and they were able to settle in this land and create a kingdom for themselves. And they farmed this land, and the area where we plant all of our hemp is the area that they cleared out themselves. So it's gorgeous in this beautiful living forest that's just,
it's beautiful.
It breathes so much life and so much energy, and there's a couple of cabins throughout the property that have been restored by the owners of the company, and the feeling that when you are up there is just different than anything else that you've ever experienced.
Yeah,
like,
it's,
and
definitely my first trip up was wow. It's a super magical place. It really is. Like the way the sun is just kind of just everywhere.
It's out in Tuxedo.
Tuxedo.
It's up on the mountain, so
yeah, you got
the lake. Mm-hmm. You get up to Lake Summit, go around the curve, you go up the mountain, and that's like near where the farm is. You kind of have to go like through a gate and go up this like super long gravel road, all prohibited to trespassers. But it's
don't get happy.
They're thinking about transforming the land into, we're working on doing like a vineyard up there, so there'll be like grapes planted, and we'll have the hemp planted, and hopefully once legalization comes around, we'll have some cannabis growing through hopefully some greenhouses, and it'll be beautiful.
Speaking of Kingdom of the Happy Land, there's a local organizer and artist, Crystal Colley, who's going to be a guest on this podcast in a couple episodes from now. And she's done a lot of work in sort of like showcasing that story. And she's got, for folks listening, she's got work, as we record this, some exhibits at Boys and Girls Club. And she's had exhibits in the Henderson County Public Library. And she's on the Henderson County Historic Preservation Committee, and she's the co-founder of the Henderson County Black History Collective.
We love you, Crystal.
Yes. Keep on keeping on.
For sure.
So, yeah, I think that there are folks individually that we see that have done a lot of work to showcase incredible leadership for Black history in this county and the surrounding areas, and now we have receipts for folks taking financial interest in that as well, with businesses, taking on that name and branding and everything. So what do you sell?
So capitalism.
Let's go ahead and touch on that.
So how long do we have?
For real, because the list is shocking.
It went from like one product in a couple of different strengths to, I mean, I don't even know how many products
there's like
we have.
60 or
Like
70
there's yeah,
More.
I mean, plenty. There's
Plenty.
I mean, sublingual oils, which is the best way to get the CBD and whole spectrum. More than CBD, what we have is a whole spectrum CBD oil, CBD, or whole spectrum hemp extract, which you get from a dual extraction process. We're really the only company that's known to do the dual extraction process. We do a cold press extraction, we do the full spectrum extraction that most of us are familiar with. And then we have pain salves with like a ton of different strengths.
Oh yeah. We have the beauty line, I think, which is 5 products. We've got oh man, damn, that's a lot of stuff. Oh, we've got the CBN is another. And then of course we have our whole entire Delta 8 line, which is filled with many products for merriment and enjoyment.
Vapes, gummies, peanut brittle.
Like a one-stop shop, sounds like.
Yeah.
Anybody who's curious or knowledgeable, there's a spectrum of information out there that folks may or may not know, and it sounds like walk in the door, and it's a great, not just a resource for people looking to buy things, but people looking to learn things.
Yeah, education is first and foremost to kind of like break that stigma. Mm-hmm. Because I get a lot of older customers that come through, and that's their whole thing. I wouldn't necessarily come in here normally, and then they come in and they're like, "Well, what do you got?" And so I explain it to them, and they're like, "I never knew." And then sometimes they get angry.
Yeah. But it's really beautiful when you get those people that just you give them the information, their faces just light up because
they didn't know.
Yeah, and a lot of the time they're suffering through things that they went through their doctors, and they've given them all these medications that they really just don't want to take because they know how harmful it can be for their bodies. Mm-hmm. And they come here just kind of like a last resort, and the second time that you see them and they come in just excited to come to get their second dosage or whatever they got, it's really nice to see the immediate reward of helping people feel better.
And I think that's where the anger on their part comes from, because for so long, how long have they been told that it's bad? Everything about it is bad. Mm-hmm. Don't touch it or you will become an addict for the rest of your life.
Right. Gateway drug.
And it's one of those things where like they really appreciate that someone is bringing that to the light for them, because like I said, they just didn't know, and now all of a sudden they have right in their neighborhood. I can come 2 streets over and get relief for however long, I need it for. So that's always a great part of my day when I get to really help somebody that you can definitely tell needs it. So,
without needing a prescription.
Exactly, and a lot of it is trying to get them off of what they've already been prescribed. Because it's already doing damage to their bodies. So they're like, not only is it killing my wallet, but it's also destroying my body every time I put it in my system. And this is all natural, so it doesn't interfere with the medicine, but it will also give you an ability to kind of taper yourself off, and then maybe just stop it altogether. Yeah. So I think that's huge.
And obviously, we're talking about stigma, accessibility. Seeming to be so easy because it's in the community and folks can just come in here. What would you say, outside of your typical weed is bad, that place is weed, right? Like outside of that kind of typical like ideological framework, like what's some pushback or some obstacles that the businesses had to overcome that are amongst allies in that community of like normalizing the culture and in that information? Like what's some barriers that you've had to overcome?
Well, one is being that we are in a super, super religious part of the country. You have a lot of influence from that on the community, as well as the way that even people in the government in those areas handle things. So, with that being said, people call this the Bible Belt. That's why nothing like this is ever acceptable. Because this is the last bastion for people who really just hardcore go against everybody. So, when you have to especially when you start educating people, they kind of come to the light a little bit, but you can tell they're still very keep it away from me. So I feel like that's one huge thing, and police. Like the way that I don't know if y'all heard about what's going on in some of the legal states where the cops, local police, and local agents are busting weed trucks that are carrying proceeds from cannabis and robbing the trucks. Because you can't call the police on the police, right?
I did not hear about that.
Yeah. So they're basically taking the proceeds because you can't put it in the bank. So the only way to transport it is by vehicle. Right. So the cops know what the vehicles look like. So they just pulling them over.
They can do it. So
taking the proceeds and riding out. Because to them, it's either you give me the money or the Fed's going to find out. And when the Feds find out, they're going to destroy your business. You can get this money back, but I'm taking it right now. So it's like you got people that do stuff like that. Then you got cops that, target people. I've been pulled over, 3 times? 3 times. And every single time it's like, hey, before I let you go, your car smells like weed. And I tell them, yeah, of course it smells like weed, bro. That's what I do all day. I just rolled 78 joints a minute ago.
Do you feel like locally y'all have to deal with that kind of attitude? Or
I haven't had any issues with any of them. Whenever I first started my business in Brevard, when I got set up and everything, I went up to all of the law enforcement offices and I introduced myself and I made it clear what I have, what products I'm carrying, especially because I'm also serving alcohol at my location. It was a little bit more of a touchy subject, but
it's very proactive.
I was thoroughly surprised with how welcoming people have been. And from the start, people were like, yes, well, let me know. Even people in the law enforcement offices were just like, we're so excited for you, honey. Let us know when it opens up. And I was like, okay, this is awesome.
And it's nuts because 2 Hendersonville cops get their hair cut right next door.
Right there, yeah.
So, I'm always out there, talking, whatever. Oh, yeah, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah. So I give them business cards. And every now and again, they come walking in here and they're like, hey, man, let me get, my wife, does this, or my wife likes this, or she wants to try this, or my kid, or blah blah blah. And I enjoyed that because now you have people who are meant to enforce a law, who are like bending. I mean, 'cause I know you've seen my flag. Mm-hmm. Law enforcement walks in here in uniform.
Right.
Do what they got to do in they jet.
What is the flag?
It's basically a giant marijuana leaf with a medical serpent with wings on it. So I mean, it's very striking. You see it from I don't know how far. I don't even know. I feel like a lot of the time, like, it's mostly like the out of town cops that are weird. Like, I had a cop from like Chesney, South Carolina, pull up one day, and I was standing outside smoking a pre-roll under the flag already. So I'm just standing outside, and he sharply looks at me and beeps the lights, boop, boop, and drives off. And I'm like, I wonder if he's gonna circle around.
He's probably trying to scare you.
Yeah,
Like,
I see
hey,
you.
I see you.
I see you.
That's weed that better be put out right now.
If I don't see you ducking it, I'm coming back around.
As far as the other places, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really gotten a chance to really communicate with them as far as like personal experiences.
Landrum.
Landrum.
So, Landrum had an issue with the local sheriff. Mm. They put their sign up. He come in same day. Boom, can't have that sign out there. Mm-hmm. What are you selling in here? They told him. He left. Next day, came back, served him with some papers. Here you go. You got to go uptown and talk to these people. Mm. So they go uptown and talk to those people. Come back. Week later. So the first 2 times that he came in there, he never introduced himself as the local sheriff. You're supposed to identify yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
When you're trying to do whatever it is that you were trying to do. And so the 3rd time he come in, he rolled up in the squad car in uniform, walked into the store, hit him with the papers. You gotta go uptown and talk to these people. This is the first time they knew he was a cop at all. And so they go up, hey, the sheriff just came down here and said, we can't do this, and this. Yeah, so they had a sign that they had up with a flag on it. Because the flag said CBD sold here, it violated the law in the town. So they had to take the flag down. Then the pole was too tall. So then they had to take the pole down. And then they had to take their sign down. They have going on.
This is what I'm talking about as far as like they need to check, because I could have had the same issues, but I went and checked with my local county's planning office.
Check.
Well, that's what I'm fucking saying. This is where there needs to be some type of
and
guidance.
The issue with the flour. So they had an issue because they were selling flour on the shelf, right? That was his whole thing. He walked in, picked up the bag, boom. I can see that this is cannabis flour. Okay. Jet served them with the papers. So now they're just now being able to get around that to be able to get flour back in the store.
Is that a South Carolina thing where is there?
It's a zero tolerance.
So if an LEO decides that what they see is cannabis, they've got a right to serve
Reasonable suspicion.
Reasonable suspicion.
Yeah. So basically, what it is, I don't know if y'all watch Live PD. But I watch it because it helps me learn law.
Yeah.
Because the cops
What
just be
to do
straight
and what
telling
not
them.
to
Yeah.
do.
You don't get out with something in your hand. Simple. Don't reach. Shit, bad stuff happens.
Especially as that person of color, you gotta know those
can't
things.
be brown.
Yeah.
So definitely watching the cop shows to figure out what the cops are doing. So the people I see get beat up on TV, I don't emulate those actions.
You the opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do not do this.
Viewer discretion is advised
Do not
for a reason. Don't be stupid. It's not just for kids. It's for stupid adults too. That's exactly what that warning. Yeah. So if you ever watch it, the cops in South Carolina always tell people that they pull over with weed in the car, like, if it looks like flour, if it smells like it, it is it. It don't matter what you tell me it is. It don't It doesn't matter.
They don't care.
You get locked up, and it's not. I'm gonna give you a ticket and confiscate. It's
you're going to
you
jail.
going down. You're gonna have to bond out tonight.
Yeah, and then figure it out later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times where I travel from here to, like I manufacture a lot of our products, so like there's times where I carry a lot of different amounts of product with me. So like I'll have like 5-8 pounds of Delta 8 flour or just like regular CBD flour, but to somebody who doesn't know, I mean to anybody really, it looks the same.
Yeah.
So if you're not really wanting to just give someone a break and just like acknowledge it for what it is, if you're really trying to fuck with somebody, it's super easy to. So like I've been super like nervous just driving back and forth, because even though I have the right documentation and I own a CBD store, like I know that if they really want to fuck me over, they will. And I'll have nothing to stand on.
Yeah,
so,
you won't have any recourse.
Yeah, and I carry my weapon with me. So, that's a
so you've
that's
got
a
another
double
layer
whammy.
extra plus.
Extra.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't need weed and weapons in the car. That's the double whammy.
I think all this is really important to like to kind of like showcase that, much like this conversation about a natural plant being criminal in one form or another, it's we talk about education too, like the existence of a business like Kingdom Harvest in multiple states, because we were talking about, we'll get to that in a second, like all the locations, but not just any one state. It acts as like a catalyst for education, where you sort of exploit the public dependence on fear, or like not really having access to appropriate legal information. There is a bit of responsibility there, right? Like moving into that space and like providing that opportunity for the public well-being to grow.
Absolutely. And I still get that question from time to time. Are you sure this is legal?
Yeah, every day.
People are still afraid, even though it's brick and mortar
Even
sitting
though
right in
it's a
front
store,
of you. You just paid tax on it.
Exactly.
If you had to pay somebody tax, it's legal.
Oh man.
For real. Like, so yeah, you good. Go on about your day.
If it's weed, or at one point it was alcohol, right? Or any or I don't know if it was ever tobacco. That might be a stretch, but at some point there were laws that had to be rewritten or like readdressed, and we had to grow. And it took people on the front lines, on the education aspect, that had receipts and had the ammunition and the infrastructure to facilitate this conversation, be a catalyst for them. And that's a real bold move, and I think that your business deserves loads of recognition for, kind of like facilitating those conversations, be it in the Landrum where you're holding local law enforcement to task, or you're saying Rochester, there's a location in Rochester, New York, where maybe this conversation doesn't require so much attention to nuance or whatever, because there's a culture there that's kind of normalized it. But I think it's really important in the South. You were talking about the Bible Belt and everything, to have those conversations and to have something like a brick and mortar location where it's just like, not only is it legal, we have an established business. There's a model. This is like fully functioning.
Yeah, y'all are on the front lines of that, like.
Yeah.
And that's
change.
the thing that Kingdom Harvest has focused from the start. That's like the main thing that Kingdom Harvest has focused on: education. We can't get anywhere if we don't educate our people, because a lot of people just have the really great misconception that cannabis is a gateway drug, or that it's just going to be like, it's illegal. So it's been really nice to see the amount of people who are just like really open to learning more and educating themselves on it. So we have here the original location, Hendersonville. We have now Main Street location, Hendersonville, which is like the corporate store, which is where our shipping center is based from. And then we have Pickens, we have Brevard, we have Landrum, we have the Rochester, New York coming soon, Asheville, Greenville coming soon. We have Wilmington possibly coming soon. We have
This is
Pickens.
amazing.
We
Yeah.
have Boise,
Boise,
Idaho.
Idaho. Notre Dame.
I
Notre Dame.
Yep.
Got one right
we
on the
have
college campus.
Waynesville, we have Crystal River, we have Canton, and we have a couple ones that are just like on the rise. So there's a lot coming.
Yes.
There's a lot that we've been super busy just working, trying to get everything situated for the new stores so that everybody has a pleasant experience with everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all this product comes from North Carolina?
Yes.
Yeah.
Straight from our farms.
Straight from us.
Wow.
We put the stickers on the bags.
Yep.
The onus on the education, is it like vetted and that intention is there in all these spaces where these people are going, or is there some sort of, at least some autonomy and like you respect the way they're going to do it where they are?
Nah, because they're trained.
Okay.
So, like, when I took over the store, I read a packet, basically, of education. Like, hey, this is what it is. Boom, 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 you know. And then there's also certain ways that you educate people.
Yeah, and that's the main part, like when you are a new Kingdom Harvest store owner, we focus on making
Absolutely.
sure that you are completely educated on not just the products and how they benefit or affect everybody's body, because it's different for everybody,
different.
but also we educate you on how to educate people, because a lot of people are and it's a touchy subject for many of them. Even if they do come in, a lot of them don't come in with like open hearts and open minds to really learn about it. They're just like, so tell me about it, you know. And I'm like,
Literally that.
Like
So-
I'm testing you immediately.
Tell me what you got here.
yeah.
Phone recording
So
in the
what
pocket.
is this?
Recording the
Yeah,
whole-
exactly. So what is this? Is this legal?
Can't wait till you lie to me. Absolutely.
And that's the beautiful thing about our products, though. They give people who are, especially the older generation, because that's our demographics in both of our counties. It's just the amount of people that you see come back, like, oh man,
Clicking their,
so good,
clicking their
like,
heels,
like,
you know?
like, I did my garden work, and I
I'm
did
back
this.
in the gym.
Yeah.
The question is, as folks on the front lines of, you know, a lot of these conversations and the educational aspect, what do you personally, as representatives of Kingdom Harvest, or you as individuals, what do you see is the path forward?
Decriminalization has to happen first.
Yes.
Because if you getting messed up just for having it on you, boom, you a felon. That's the first strike right there. So if you decriminalize it, it's not going to make people just be out here going crazy in the street. Now, it could, but now you don't have, I hate to say it, but a large quantity of brown people being targeted for one specific thing. And I feel like with the recent ability for America to pay their bills with weed, you need to be letting people out who was doing that in the 90s, who was selling weed on the corner to make sure their kids ate, and you lock them up for life. You know, that's, so I mean, if you decriminalize it, then you're not just getting a whole bunch of petty lockups.
Yeah.
Which is a strain, you know, that's crazy.
Start with decriminalizing it federally, at a federal level. That's really like the most important part.
That's all the time we have for guests today. Thank you so much to Kimi and Levi for speaking with us.
I don't know about you, but all this talk about current events and community can stress me out. It's normal to have some trouble sleeping, to feel depleted or scattered, and Leslie Carey helps people manage their stress levels so that they feel grounded and centered by using breathing techniques and relaxing energy treatments. So contact Laughing Elephant Yoga right here in Hendersonville and book a session today.
I wanted to give an update on our local transportation system, Apple Country Transit. Every 6 years, the contract for managing the system comes up for bid by the County Commissioner's Office. This time, WNC Source, formerly WCCA, won the bid and will retain the contract with Apple Country. There are currently 3 routes which go as far north as the Fletcher Library and as far south as Blue Ridge Community College. If you need information on the bus system and routes, times, and stops, you can call the Apple Country Operators line, and that number is 828 888-698-8571. If you use the bus regularly, keep this number handy because the website recommends you call it before leaving. And remember that you must pay with exact change or use prepaid tickets or passes. So we did it. We finished our first episode.
Yay! This is huge, y'all, and we feel it's a great opportunity to get some momentum here in Western North Carolina.
For the time being, we're going to stick to this format of weekly releases on YouTube until we can afford to be streaming everywhere.
That's right. We inch ever closer to that goal with support from listeners like you.
So if you'd like to do more and show your support, please donate anything you can to our Patreon at patreon.com/firemtnpod.
A small but generous monthly donation of $5 gets you exclusive content like outtakes, unedited videos of the show, merchandise, and
all the love in our hearts.
Oh.
Thanks again for listening, everyone.